Hi, I'm Sean Duval, and today I'm going to be speaking to Sven Axelrad, who I think has become one of South Africa's most beloved authors since his debut in 2023, which was Buried Treasure. That was followed by God's Pocket, The Nicotine Gospel, and now most recently, The Dogs of Vivo. So the three novels, Buried Treasure, God's Pocket, now Dogs of Vivo, fit into a loosely structured kind of trilogy, all set in this imaginary town called Vivo, which, as Sven has said, is sort of a strange combination of a bit of Joburg, a bit of Durban, a bit of Cape Town, a bit of Lisbon, and a bit of Madrid. His other novel, The Nicotine Gospel, is set more or less in real-life South Africa, and we're going to be talking about that too. Okay, so it's the third of what's being called a Vivo trilogy. Is that kind of accurate?
I would call it that, but it's very much a loose trilogy. You know, it's
it's not sort of sequential.
They're not sequential. They don't follow on at all, but they belong together.
Right.
Yeah. And I always was going to do three.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it, but that book that got me writing was Senor Vivo and the Coca Lord by Leo de Bernier, and he had three. You know, it was the Latin American was a trilogy.
That's right.
Also loosely connected. You could read them in any order.
Right.
And I think that idea got into me when I was in my early 20s.
Right.
So in my head, I was like, well, if this works,
I'd
love to do it at least 3 times, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's actually the origin of the name Vivo.
Yeah.
Obviously, which I hadn't thought of what the origin might be.
Yeah. It's straight from that book. I've got a tattoo on my arm of a scene from that book.
Okay.
Yeah, that I really like.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very special book to me. And it's not a perfect book, you know, like none of them are, but there's magic in it that that got to me, you know.
And not a lot of books are perfect. I mean, it's hard to kind of,
I don't think any of them are.
I suppose, to kind of say this is a perfect book, this is a book with no word out of place. Although I think that A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood
I haven't read that.
is probably the closest of anything I've read.
Okay.
That I would say perfect.
Is a perfect novel.
It's very short. It's really a novella.
Which probably helps it to maintain its perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one day in the life of a Englishman who's working as a university professor in California.
Okay.
And it's in the 60s, the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
So it's sort of personal crisis and the social one. But it's just, that's one of the very, very, very few novels that I have read more than once.
Okay.
Because I tend not to reread those things. Read novels anyway. I mean,
I tend to I don't reread often, but I will switch to an audio if I love it. So like there's some novels that I'll probably listen to once every 2 years.
Right.
But I switch to the audio because it's less commitment. I know the story now. I've got the beauty of the words on the page, and now we go
that's interesting.
to audio. Yeah.
That's interesting because I really does not listen to a lot of things on audio. Although I must say I was just commenting online the other day, someone was talking about The Crossing by Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
And saying, how's the audiobook for you? And it's because it's read by Brad Pitt.
I didn't know that. The audios I've got that are not read by Brad Pitt.
Not?
Yeah, but that's great. Yeah.
That was like the official Picador
thing
of Brad Pitt.
I must look for it.
And I thought it was interesting about
Maybe
that
my wife
book.
will listen to it now. His voice is even sexy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting book because the prologue section about the guy and the mother wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's even 100 pages long.
No.
Is so compelling.
Yeah.
That the rest of the book feels a little pale by comparison. You just don't that level of intensity is not achieved.
Yeah. It's still like because the rest of the book is aimless as your character's aimless. And it's beautiful, but you're right. The first time I ever read it, I remember getting to end of the wolf section and thinking, and I'm flicking through the rest of the book thinking, well, now what? But I would say read it anyway because the third one, Cities on the Plain, is so good because your characters from All the Pretty Horses and
picks them up.
Billy comes and it's so good.
Yeah.
Like the third one, it's worth pushing through the second one just so that you've got a context for the third one.
For the third one. That's a good
and the way the second one ends is beautiful as well. Yeah.
Well, I must say, after having read The Road,
Yeah, that's bleak. I mean, it's
I
really
was
hard.
like, okay, now I don't need any more Cormac McCarthy.
I kind of agree. Yeah, The Road's too bleak, right?
It's
Yeah.
so bleak.
I need a bit of hope in the stuff
Yeah, you
I'm
need
reading.
something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the kid survives,
Yeah.
so that's your hope.
Yeah. No spoilers.
Survives to suffer more.
Yeah. Yes.
But okay, so tell me how the Dogs of Vivo.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got these 3 novels. Okay, I'm leaving aside the Nicotine Gospel for now.
Okay.
But now this is the 3rd one of the Vivo. You say they can be read in any order.
Yeah.
But how does this one fit in with the other 2 Vivo stories?
The setting and narrator is your biggest connection between the 3 novels. So you don't. The events of the other 2 novels are mentioned in passing.
Right.
So there's no. If you've read the other ones, it's a little Easter egg for you and for me, and I'm enjoying the connection. The same characters live on, but they don't feature heavily.
Right.
So you might walk past them in a cafe. Someone might say, "Oh, that's the young girl that runs the cemetery." In the distance, or there's or a lot of town rumors. They'll say, "Oh no, what, do you still believe in the rat catcher?" But in the first one, we actually got to meet the rat catcher.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff like that connects the novels, but very much set apart. Yeah.
Because so the first one is God's Pocket.
The first one's Buried Treasure.
Oh, the first one's Buried Treasure.
Then God's Pocket.
Then it's God's Pocket, which that felt to me like this sort of origin story.
Okay.
In a way of the Vivo concept, I suppose, because you've got that figure of the accountant who wants to write. The monster in the quarry and all that.
It's interesting that you say that, because although Buried Treasure is the first Vivo book I ever wrote, I wrote a version of God's Pocket before all of this stuff. When I was still learning, and I wasn't able. I hadn't figured out my style. I hadn't figured out my voice, and I wrote it as almost a straight up. I was reading Stephen King at the time. I wrote it as pretty much straight up horror novel.
Okay.
And when I figured out, after I read Buried Treasure and I figured out the style, I completely discarded that first one. Didn't even open the file again, and wrote the idea into Vivo. Okay. And that is why it probably feels like it comes before. Yeah,
that
it's well picked up. Yeah.
I suppose I also felt that, as I say, because it's got that accountant figure who I kind of identify as you. He's telling the story of the beginning of how he started to write. Yeah. In a way. Get out of his accountant world and into, I suppose, Vivo.
Which I suppose is I didn't get out of the accounting world, so...
You're still in it.
Yeah, so you get to sort of imagine your life, another life, right? Without having to risk it.
You don't think you'll jump free of the accountant world sometime soon, I suppose, when something becomes a bestseller?
Yeah. I win the Booker, then I can, which is, I buy lotto tickets as well, one has to hope. But I like the stability of a paycheck. And I always say that it keeps all of this pure passion. I'm a little bit concerned. Of course, I would jump at the chance. I mean, who wouldn't? But I'm a little bit concerned that it would maybe affect. I'd start wondering what I should write rather than what I want to write. And at the moment, I have none of that. I just write purely whatever I want and where my heart wants to go.
Right.
So, group of 3 20-somethings, they all spend every day in a bar talking to each other about making it famous. And really good friends, but they've all got problems. My lead character's had a heart transplant. There's a rumor going around town that they've put a dog's heart into his chest, and it's mostly as a lovely way to talk about the way he's actually in love with Maggie, who's the second character. And he's been in love with her since he was 12, but is afraid to talk to her about it. That's what he really wants, is to be with Maggie. What Maggie really wants is to be a musician, a famous musician. And then they've got a third friend who is Felix, who's sort of the extremely good-looking, fun artist, but is homeless at the moment because art doesn't pay the bills. And his theory is that he'll go home every night with a new person to sleep at their house. Those are your 3 friends. They all want to make it famous. And we meet them in one night when a stranger walks into the bar who may or may not be the devil. and offers a deal that changes their lives. Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, and what I find interesting is that like this one now is like I used to work in a bar
Right.
when I was 20 something. I wanted to be a famous musician.
Before you were an accountant.
Yeah, well, I mean, while I was studying to be an accountant,
Right.
I was working in a bar, and then I wanted to be a musician. I was playing like any little open mics I could find, and so I'm very familiar with this world that my characters are in. And I worked at a DVD store as well when the world still had DVD stores.
Right.
Which I think also flavors Vivo. Like it flavors. When I worked in that DVD store, I was the only one in it. It was a quiet store, and I would sit there until like 10 at night, and I'd do my work, and I'd walk around, listening to music, and then I'd just start watching films. And I started at the bottom of, let's say, the drama shelf, and I watched every single show in a row. I didn't choose the films. I just watched like that in a row, up the shelf. And by halfway through, I was like, dramas are the best movies out there. They got the best characterizations and all that kind of stuff. And then I would hit the horror shelf, and it's a jarring, straight switch over. But then I'd start watching, and after the first couple, I'd be like, nothing. Horror gets a bad rap, but it's the most atmospheric genre by far. And I always say that, like, if this was a campfire and we were sitting at night, we wouldn't be telling stories about about a boy meets girl, but they don't like each other at first and they like each other later. We would be saying, I wonder what's out there in the darkness. It's a primal storytelling.
Monster.
And I'd love that. And then I'd switch to whatever, comedies and then action. And I feel like Vivo kind of does that. It's the tone is very playful and the themes are very serious. And but it allows you to get close to the darkness because it doesn't feel too continuously threatening, whatever. We brush up against darkness and then rush to light again all the time. And I feel like humans are like that. I mean, we had a friend that died not too long ago, and I remember at the funeral just how much laughter there was in the middle of tragedy. And life's like that.
Absolutely.
You can't just walk around miserable all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or jovial all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope there's some laughter at my funeral. Maybe I'll write some jokes for the
Please,
energy.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's interesting you say about the light and the darkness and so forth, because I very strongly had that sense in, most of all, in the Nicotine Gospel.
Okay.
Because very striking, very interesting. It's so charming, but it's also so disturbing.
Yeah.
That you've got something that sort of seduces you in with this, the playfulness, what you're calling.
Yeah.
There's that playful element.
And the bizarre
evolves.
setup of the cigarette religion.
Absolutely.
It seems wacky, a little bit crazy, but it is exactly that's disarming, right? And I don't think I could have approached. It is. I said at the back of the novel that none of it happened, but all of it's real, and I stand by that. I didn't have a cigarette religion. Both my parents are alive and lovely people, but I did have. There were abusive partners and a lot of bad stuff that went down. But I don't think I could have approached it head on, with realism. I think I would have shied away from it. So even the creation of these slightly bizarre events allows me to actually get closer to the truth than if I just tried to tell the truth.
Right.
Right. Because I just think the truth can be a little bit too scary sometimes, or a little bit too overwhelming.
It can, and it interests me that we've got such a genre now of kind of trauma novels. I suppose they were always around in some form or another.
Yeah. We're talking like A Little Life and
A Little Life.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the ultimate trauma novel.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it's true. I suppose with Nicotine Gospel, I didn't set out to write trauma in any format. I set out to talk about my brother. That was what I wanted to do. When I sat down and thought about it, I was like, I want to talk about my brother. And then the story is there. But if you look at it again or think about it, it is very much a story of brothers, not a story of really what happened to the brothers,
But the trauma's in there.
No, it's in there. And I suppose it's unavoidable. But it's dealt with, I suppose, like I always laugh and say my brother can dissociate from anything. But if you, because it's told from the brother's point of view, especially the past where it is hard for them, it's almost a game to them. Like it's because that's how I had a good upbringing. My brother and I had a lot of fun. We were always a very tight unit. Even when bad things were going on, we don't remember it as being this like awful time. We remember it as us, making our way, figuring things out. And the boys in the novel do that. They're not moaning. It's just the water to them. For them, and I suppose for us, it was. We didn't know another way, so that was baseline. Yeah, things were a bit tough, but we were just like, well, that's normal, and now let's have some fun. It's only looking back as an adult that you sort of, now you must be careful not to paint it as either idyllic or traumatic, and to try and hold that balance that the kids just saw it as life. And we had honestly, my brother had a lovely upbringing, despite of the nonsense. And with Nicotine Gospel was like, I messed around with a little bit of that, even though I have a real brother. The story is told from, I'm the younger brother, and the story is told from the older brother's point of view.
Right.
And then the younger brother in the novel remains a little bit unknown to him and mysterious to him, I am the younger of the two. Right. So it was quite hard to. I did it on purpose. I thought, well, let me try.
Flip it around like that.
And my brother's a chemical engineer, and he thinks differently than me. And although I'm not trying to realistically portray his thoughts, I tried to have my brother think about the world in a more scientific way, and have the younger brother a little bit more chaotic and unknown. So it's hard to leave yourself in obscurity as a character and then try and jump into the other one. But it was also a nice exercise,
But it's an interesting thing to do. I mean, Michiel Haynes's book, The Wildest Beauty.
I'm busy reading it right now.
Right. I mean, that's two brothers, twins, in fact.
I'm about 80 pages in.
And
so,
the younger brother is telling the story. I mean,
and he's also a Danny, which is great.
Right.
You could choose either way here, because in the Nicotine Gospel, the younger brother probably is wilder and more chaotic, which would seem like a better viewpoint, right? But he also, the story had to progress from them being taught this crazy cigarette religion to them realizing that it's harmful, sort of family histories, family law, and the younger brother takes too long. He's good at the gospel and he has instinctual ability to understand it, whereas the older brother starts to see it as crazy earlier and has to navigate that. I very much like, the planning process for me is not a planning process, it's like a mood process. Like I obsess about stuff. So smoking for the Nicotine Gospel, I taught myself to smoke cigarettes.
I remember hearing that story. It was very funny.
Yeah, bought all the cigarettes, smoked them all, chatted to people outside bars for a year, asking who gave them their first cigarette. Right. And I made so many notes. I looked like a serial killer in my little notebook. It's just like these, trying to figure out an actual gospel, which was madness, which was supposed, and that was even helpful at how mad the endeavor was, because it's madness in the novel too. So there's a lot of like soft research where I'm immerse myself in the subject, and I was actually reading a bit of McCarthy at the time. There's a lot of biblical language in Nicotine Gospel, which gives it sort of a gothic feel, and obviously the juxtaposition, well, the whole connection to religion, it felt like it made sense, but no plan, absolutely no plan. Like I didn't even. I didn't even know where to start. And then what I'll do is, after a year of music and thinking and smoking, and it all, like I always say, it feels like a storm cloud building, of ideas. And at some point it just gets too full. It's usually when my wife looks at me like, are you actually crazy now? Or are you just, as this research crossed the line? And then at that moment, something breaks and I'll start writing. But my skill isn't in plotting. Some writers are brilliant at it. I can't do it. I tried before. If I plot a novel, it instantly becomes boring to me. Instantly. If I know that this scene needs to happen in order to tell you that this is going to happen, I'm bored, and you can tell in the writing. So I need to keep it open. Luckily, one of the skills I do have is to be able to connect things in front of me quickly, and that's the saving grace, because otherwise I think I would be nowhere. So I'm able to connect. As I sit down, it sort of just falls into place. I take wrong turns. We all do. I find my way back.
Reverse.
Yeah. And there's certain passages that get cut. Maybe a chapter out of place or gets moved. Or I'm quite a fan of finding the beginning later. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I said about God's Pocket being written as a sort of horror novel and then rewritten as it is. This new novel, Dogs of Vivo, is exactly the same. The second novel I ever wrote was called Me and the Devil, and it was about an old man that meets the devil as a young man and spends his life researching him. And we meet him. The novel starts when he's old, and he hasn't seen the devil again in 60 years, but he's the town's authority, and something happens that gets him involved. And that novel was my play novel, I suppose, now, because I wrote the whole thing. I liked it. This is like 15 years ago, and Penguin liked it at the time. I submitted it. I thought I was in the game, and they said, no, it's good, but it needs a reworking. I'd bitten off more than I could chew. I didn't have the skill to pull it off, and I tried to rewrite that novel 3 times, but in its original form, just change the voice, and it never was quite right. But I loved it. I love that novel, still do love that novel. And finally now, I just took the seed of the idea. I didn't even open it again. I didn't look at it again. Haven't seen it in 10 years, but I rewrote this devil concept.
Right.
And Me and the Devil was named after an old Robert Johnson song, because he was rumored to have sold his soul to Satan. By tuning his guitar on the crossroad. Died at 27 in that famous 27 Club, along with Jimi Hendrix and Kurt and Amy Winehouse and Janis Joplin. Wow. So I rewrote it in, and the only thing I've transplanted into this novel is a character, but he's a side character now. We meet him at an AA meeting, and a single sentence from that novel that I liked. I've been having a lot of conversations about fate this last week, a lot, and I have no idea where I sit on it.
That's interesting. How do you think that came up?
Now it just makes me think
of it. Very much a theme in Dogs of Vivo.
It is a theme in Dogs of Vivo. So instead of a cigarette religion, I've invented a zodiac of bars everywhere. So basically, my friends are drinking in a bar every night, but you could be the sign of the olive or the beer bottle with the label torn off or the jacket on the back of a chair, and you must pick. In the beginning of my novel, there's a list of the 12 zodiacs of bars, and you must pick one. I have the olive tattooed on my arm, so I'm the sign of the olive. But my characters don't know that this exists, and are bound by it. So with no idea how it works. So, you could be talking, say you see a pretty girl, you're having a chat and it's going really well until the waitress comes and knocks over your beer bottle or moves the car keys slightly sideways, and all of a sudden things are going terribly.
The spell is broken.
And it just interests me because in my book, even the character that may or may not be the devil, he could just be a businessman. I say that capitalism has made devils of us all. He's also bound by it. It's not something that can be controlled by any of us, and it just opens up this idea of fate. Or my novels, I call it necessary ruin, where my characters must go through hardships in order to get to where they need to go. Which I've asked every panel I've been on this last week, who here has had an easy ride to an adulthood? I've not seen a single hand.
No, of course not.
So it's kind of that concept, and then how much of that's fated. Does fate exist? Do you think everything happens for a reason? I've had so many conversations that I've actually been swayed. I love to have a strong opinion and then hold it loosely. Sort of be left to change. You can change my mind. But I think I like to play around with the idea as well that destiny seems to be like the positive idea of fate. No one talks about a terrible destiny. Well, I suppose they do. But fate always seems to be like a little bit darker. I always say that about writing, is that people ask me a lot of questions. They say that, maybe novels help contextualize some of their feelings. But I'm very quick to say that I have zero answers for you. The reason I'm writing these things is because I'm trying to contextualize it myself. But there is this lovely feeling that we're doing it together, which I think is this lovely side effect of the novel, which is that we're no closer to the answer afterwards, but we've maybe found a little crew of people that can look for the answer together, you know? Because I have no clue. I don't know what my character in Dogs of Vivo, there's a scene where one of my lead characters tries to make sense of what's happened so far, and the lady that runs a coffee shop, you know, she says, sorry, I'm doing this terribly, she says, I don't know what to do with this love that I had, and now there's no way to put it, you know. And the coffee shop lady sort of says, just give it away. And I kind of feel like that, almost like all the questions, all the things, just give it to people.
Yeah.
And then see what happens with that, you know. It seems to be like overwhelmingly positive to share the question, you know.